many of you, your life is complete and whole. And if it is, my congratulations. I know for myself, there are areas that I still am striving to better myself, to have more satisfaction, more joy, better relationships, a better experience of life, a better quality of that thing called true wealth. I want to just stop there, because when I say true wealth, that may mean different things for different people. For me, true wealth is much, much more than just money. See, one of my mentors told me, he said, if you measure a person's wealth, their true wealth, simply by the amount of money they have, you could actually be missing most of the picture. And I had to think about that. I had to think, well, what can he mean? But through the years, what I've discovered is that true wealth is actually, yes, money's important, right? I would say for most of us, we have to have money to survive. And for most of us, the lack of money is a challenge. The money's not necessarily a challenge, but the lack of money. So part of the definition of true wealth would include enough money so that the lack of money is not the problem. Do you agree?
Yes.
Yeah. What about health? Have you ever been, perhaps you're ahead financially, maybe temporarily, maybe permanently, but when your health is not together, when you're feeling ill or incapacitated, how much difference does that money make to your well-being? Now, that's not to discount that you can get help, you can get support, but the money can be very small comfort if we don't have our health. Let's move along to this thing called time. And time is the ultimate commodity, right? The ultimate commodity, because as far as I know, we have a limited amount of time here on the earth. So what does that mean? Well, I know lots of people that have lots of money, but they're time poor. They're time poor. Now think about it for a minute. Wouldn't it be sort of a bad joke, an irony, to spend our time making money and get the money, but find out we don't have time to enjoy it? We're slaves to the money or the job or whatever creates that money. Wouldn't that be a bad joke? And what about this thing called relationships? I know for me, I want to be loved. I want to love. I want to be respected, and I want to respect others. I want to give and receive acknowledgement. And again, wouldn't it just be a really, really, really bad joke to spend a lot of time and a lot of effort making money, but then find it is lonely at the top because there's no love in life. There's no respect. So I would say that true wealth includes all these things and more. So I want to talk about true wealth tonight. I want to talk about the kind of wealth that actually gives us a feeling of satisfaction. The experience of life is joyful and abundant. And I think this is an important message. I know I wish when I was younger that somebody had shared this information with me. So, I actually want to start by describing a little bit about what's going on in the world today. And I'm going to be not academic, but I am going to use some of my economics background to describe some things you may not be aware of, but they will impact you, I guarantee it. How many of you have heard of ZIRP, Z-I-R-P? Not many, right? How many of you have heard of NIRP, N-I-R-P? Okay, so these are obscure terms, but they will become increasingly important in your life. ZIRP stands for Zero Interest Rate Program, okay? So it's a zero interest rate regime. Now, you might go, well, what do I care about interest rates? Well, I say you will care if you don't already, and here's why you'll care. For one thing, if you ever plan on retiring, and I don't mean retiring from life, I just mean retiring from working for a living. If you ever plan on retiring from working, how do you plan to do that? I know most people, the stats are pretty bad. They don't have any savings. They don't have any kind of way to survive economically after they retire from active working. Some people may have a pension. They may have a retirement program of some sort funded by something or somebody else. But here's the bad news about zero interest rate. If you have a chunk of money, let's just say you have $100,000, which is a significant amount of money, right? And maybe you were counting on getting 8% to live on. 8%, $8,000 interest. Well, in a zero interest rate environment, you're not going to get anything. Now, for people who retired, that's kind of, it's more than shocking. It's actually quite desperate. NIRP is a negative interest rate environment. Now think about this for a minute. So you have your $100,000, you keep it in the bank, but every year it goes down in value. It's worth less the next year. Now, some of you probably know about this thing called inflation, meaning you could buy a tank of petrol or a loaf of bread 10 years ago and it cost you less than it did today. Certainly housing was cheaper, right? Everybody can agree with that. That's inflation. It doesn't mean the price of housing's gone up. It means your money is worth less. It takes more of those dollars to buy that same house. Is that house worth any more today than it was 30 years ago? Probably not. It's probably worth less because the roof is old, the building's old, it needs more repair. So on an equal basis, it's worth less, but it takes more of those dollars to buy it, so your dollars are worth less. The house isn't worth more. That's the inflation part. But when those inflated dollars are actually worth less, you see where it goes? This is a real problem. It hasn't hit the newspaper headlines yet, but I guarantee you it will, and it won't be long. Let me give you some statistics that might shock you. Right now, a quarter of the world's money, investment money, is in negative interest-bearing government bonds. Now, you might go, well, what do I care? Well, if you have a pension, or if you have insurance, or you have a savings plan, you better care. Because these pensions are saying, well, we've got, $5 gazillion and we've got it and we're projecting we're going to make 8% a year on it, so we're going to be able to pay you out of that 8%. But if they're not making the 8%, how long can they pay you? And if they're making less than zero, like negative, you see how it's going to affect you? So these are very real issues. They might seem academic or strange, but when they hit the man in the street, when they hit you, they will become very real. Just like the price of housing is very real. Would everybody agree that that's a problem, particularly for young people or people on less income? Don't have even a hope or a dream of owning a house because of the asset price inflation. So I want to add a little bit more onto this. Again, I don't want to steer into these realms of numbers and esoteric stuff, but I want you to understand that there are some challenges here, and then I want to offer you a solution, a way to stand in those challenges and actually prosper in the new economy. Fair enough? Yep. So let's look at this thing. By the way, did you know we're at war again? There's a new war. You know about the war on poverty, probably. You know about the war on drugs, certainly. The war on terrorism, the war on cancer, and there's actual shooting wars too, but there's a new war, and it's called the war on cash. Now you might think, what are you talking about? Watch the newspaper headlines. The trial balloons are already being floated. You notice that the government and the banks and the institutions, they don't just come out and say, well, we're going to do this. You'll see a little story here and then a story there and then more and more and more and more and more and more. And suddenly everybody's kind of used to it, and then it hits the big black headlines, big print. The war on cash. How many of you think terrorism's a problem in the world? How many of you think money laundering's a problem? Well, it is. But it may not be the huge problem that is being presented. Now, I'm not here to kind of be any kind of a conspiracist or anything. I don't believe in that. I don't go there. But I want to share some information with you that will affect you. In the name of avoiding money laundering and terrorism, there's an actual war on cash. And watch for it. It'll be announced pretty soon. In France, did you know that it is illegal to do any cash transactions over €1,000? That's on the books now. You want to buy a car, you want to buy a boat, you want to put a deposit down on something, you just like having cash, you don't trust banks or whatever, €1,000. That's it, no more. In Sweden and Japan, they're into the negative. Look, trial balloons are being floated around the world, this thing called the war on cash. This will affect you if cash disappears. They're talking right now this week about getting rid of the 500 euro note. The US government just announced we're looking to get rid of the $100 bill. It won't necessarily be like they shut the window overnight. Probably what you'll see, first of all, is negative interest rates, and then you'll see cash being depreciated. What do I mean by that? Well, if you're in a church or you have a shop and you're used to dealing in cash a lot, and right now you can take it to a bank and they put it in, and if you bring $1 in, they give you $1 credit on your account, right? Well, what about if they put a handling fee on that cash and you bring in $100 and they say, well, yeah, we'll buy that from you for $999. And then it goes down to $995, and then it goes down to $990. You see? So cash suddenly becomes unprofitable to hold. Now, you might ask yourself, why are you telling me? Why are they doing this? What's the point? Well, the point is this. There's economic theories, and one theory is that consumption and asset inflation, remember that thing called housing prices, asset inflation and consumption leads to economic activity and growth. Intelligent people believe this. I don't. I don't believe that consumption can make us rich. If it does, let's all consume more and we'll all be rich. But what I know is when I consume food, it kind of maybe in some way makes me rich, but the food's gone, right? So consumption doesn't lead to wealth. Savings and production lead to wealth. If you accumulate money and you do something with it, that can lead to wealth. Anyway, long story short, the theory is that if your cash is less valuable, you'll spend it more quickly. Instead of taking it down to the bank and getting $10 less, you'll go buy something with it, speeding up the velocity of money. Okay, great. Those are all kind of esoteric academic things. What difference will it make to you? When cash is either discounted or illegal, all transactions will go through the banks. You'll get paid through the bank, you'll spend through the bank, there will be no way out of it. It'll all be banking. You might go, well, I do all my banking online anyway, right now. What difference does that make? Well, the difference it makes is that as the different government needs heat up, they will be able to unilaterally, just by they say so, reduce the value of your money. Just because they need the money. You might think, well, they can't do that. Well, I've got news for you. 3 years ago in Greece and in Cyprus, they did exactly that. If you had 100,000 euros in the bank in Cyprus, and they said, well, we need the money, and they just took it. Don't say it can't happen here. It's happened a number of times in a number of countries around the world. Now, my purpose here tonight is not to get you stirred up or riled up or crazy about this stuff, but I want to let you know, the whole point of this is to let you know that the economic period we are in is not the period we just came from. We just came from a fairly long history, a period of stability, economic stability, but that's not normal in the world. If you look at the world history of money, it's pretty violent and it's like this. You know, it's just up and down and in and out, and currencies crash and countries crash and all this stuff happens. And we're headed into a storm. We're headed into a currency storm and an economic storm. And you can do your own research and find your own evidence for that. The question becomes for me as an individual, and hopefully for you as an individual, what do I do about it? What do I do about this? What do I do about it? Well, that's a great question to sit with. And there may be more than one answer. And I hope, and my fondest hope is that you find a way to survive the coming economic storm, that you find a way to prosper in this new economy. Because in every economic period, there have been winners and losers, and they have very different strategies. In today's economy, wealth is created very differently than it used to be. Today, wealth is created through an information economy by distributing information. That's the way the big wealth's being created today. And if you believe that asset prices will continue to go up and your money will continue to be worth less, the smart strategy be what? Get more money. If you're on a fixed income or pension, you could be in for some hard times. That's the message I want to leave you with. Back when my dad was working in his working career, one man had a house, a car, supported 5 children, and actually was able to put money away and create for himself a retirement program. I don't think that's possible today. Not in any real way. Not in any real way. So what we need to do today is create wealth. Create wealth. So if you're on a fixed income or an employment, if you have a job, you may find that the economic crunch around the world is going to impact you. And there's a couple things there. Number one, the outsourcing of jobs, middle-class jobs. It's happening. But even more insidious will be the automation. The artificial intelligence, computerization, globalization are crushing the middle class. So if you have a middle-class job right now, you'll want to start looking at this stuff. The automation, what do I mean? Is it robots that are going to walk around and talk to you in a funny voice? I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the robotics that either support or completely replace human labor. I'll give you a couple examples. So there are restaurants now where you can go in, you sit down at a table, and there's like a touchpad on the table, like an iPad thing, and you put in your order, you pay for it, and you just sit there and wait, and it's a custom order, whatever they got, and you know, in a little while it'll vibrate or send some lights, and off you go, you get your food and bring it back and you eat it. There's no human server. Nobody's coming out and taking your order and offering you water and all this stuff. Why would they want to have a human being do that? With all the problems and the retirement and they're sick and, you know, all that stuff, training them and then they don't show up and they quit and move, all that stuff. That's all. So those jobs. What about when was the last time you went into a bank and you did your business in the bank? If you're like me and like most people, you do it outside. You go to that ATM and there's a robot that takes your card and out comes the cash and off you go, right? How many jobs were replaced? How many sort of specific knowledge-based jobs, like if you are a knowledge worker, let's say you're a doctor, let's say you're an executive, let's say you're a social worker, whatever. The computer can do a bunch of your job. It can't do all of it yet, and it may never, but it also may. But the automation and the information technology can take away a lot of the exclusivity of these old jobs. Right? And I could go on and on and on. What about drivers? You know, there's a lot of people make their living around driving, loading trucks, unloading trucks, and traffic, and all this stuff. Driverless cars, they're going to hit soon. And when they do, probably the first applications will be commercial drivers. So if you know people in that industry, look for a shake-up. Taxi cabs. On and on and on. So the job is no longer the secure thing it may have been. So you really need to start thinking 5, 10, 15 years, 20 years down the road. What am I going to do for money? What am I going to do for money? Because if you're looking for a transfer payment, perhaps from a government, yeah, I believe they'll keep making those, but they may become worth less, and the quality of life on that, which is already, you know, not the highest, could get worse and worse. So what do you do? What do you do? Well, there's not a lot of good strategies. People say, well, one strategy is I'm going to win the lotto. I go, well, that's good luck. You're going to need it. Other people go, well, I'm going to start a business. I say, yeah, what kind of business do you want to start? Oh, I don't know. I think I'll do a franchise. And I go, good luck. Do you have $100,000 to do that? And do you have the time you need to do that and the skills? You go, well, no, but one day I will. I say, great, good luck on that. People talk about, you know, work more. I'll work more. I'll work harder. How many of you feel really, especially as you get older, you want to work more? Or do you want to work less? I mean, you know, let's face it, I love my work, but there's a limit. There's a limit how much I want to work. Maybe you think you're going to get lucky and inherit the money. I don't know. Look, there's a lot of different ways to approach this. But I would say none of those have any real traction in my life. I look at those and I go, yeah, probably not. not. But there is one thing that I've discovered after 20 years of research that actually can address this problem. The problem of lack of money and the lack of time and the lack of relationship and the lack of meaning and purpose in life and the lack of health, perhaps. And that is this thing called network marketing. You see, this is the people's franchise. This is the business of the 21st century. And it's only possible in the 21st century at the level it's played today. There's always a way to win in the new economy, as well as there was in the last economy, and the last economy, and the last economy. And this is it. If you haven't looked at network marketing, I encourage you to take a deep look at it. You may have heard about franchising. You may have heard about opening a retail shop. You may have heard about a lot of different things. But when you start to look at them and take them apart, you may see the truth. And I encourage you to do that with network marketing as well. Don't take my word for it. Take it apart. Do your what we call due diligence. It's a business term. It means you look and you assess. And you take it apart to the components where there's nothing hiding. You take it apart, you look at it, and then you make a decision. I'm going to encourage you to do this. And tonight I want to give you a few tips on how to do this for yourself. So first of all, you want to know that the industry is pretty young. It's a young industry, but it's a big industry. There's over $200 billion that moves through this industry every year. And there's over 200 million people involved in, I think, virtually every country on the planet. So you want to know that it's a legitimate business, and it has a strong pedigree, and it has a brilliant future. It has a brilliant future. You see, advertising is getting less and less effective. Word of mouth referral, which is what network marketing is also called, is called referral marketing, has a brilliant future. People more and more trust each other rather than some celebrity in an advertisement. And this is your opportunity. It's your opportunity to monetize this thing that you already have. You see, you already have an asset. And the asset is called your reputation. Anybody heard of reputation marketing? This is the ultimate in reputation marketing. It allows you to stand on your history and your relationship with others and offer information about goods and services that are valuable to them. And if they choose to act on it, you get the benefit. It's custom made for people in the 21st century. Why? Well, first of all, you don't need money to get going. You don't need a big bunch of capital to get started. You don't need that 100,000 or more to start a franchise. You want to start a shop? Good luck. It takes a lot of money, and it's hugely risky. It doesn't require specific skills. It doesn't require that you have gone to a certain school or have certain degrees, or you know this or you know that, or you have some life experience. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what your credit is. It doesn't matter what your language skills are, your ethnicity, your gender. None of that matters. You know what matters? There's two things, two simple things, and I bet you've already got them. One, do you have a dream? Do you have something you want to do in life or have in life or be in life? Do you have something that you want more out of life? For me, yeah, I do. For me, it's the freedom to do nothing if I choose. And you know what? I get bored doing nothing. But I love being able to do nothing. For some people, it's being able to work in a community that's meaningful to you and not have to expect a return, financial return from it. For others, it's being with your children while they're young and they need you and while you make a difference. For others, it's having location freedom. Live where you want. You don't need to be tied down to a location like a sticks and bricks kind of job or a business. For others, it's the ultimate financial freedom. You see, there are people in our industry who make everything from a couple $100 a month to a couple $1,000 to $10,000, $20,000, $50,000, $100,000. There are even people who make $1 million a month of passive residual income in our industry. Now, that may not be of interest to you, or you may not be willing to do what they do for that, but I believe there's some place in there where you can find financial freedom, right? And that's all possible here. You don't need to have some sort of contact base and know all the powerful people in your community. You don't need that. You don't need great presentation skills. You really don't need that. You need a dream, and you need to be willing to work for that dream. You need to be willing to work. And I'm going to bet that you already are willing to work. You're probably already working very hard in your life. Most people that I know are. So I know most people have those two things. Now, that doesn't mean if I asked you, what's your life's goal, you could necessarily roll it off the top of your tongue, but I'm willing to bet you're unhappy with the way things are. And with a little work, a little help, you might be able to specifically identify those things that you want and that you're willing to work for. And if you do, and if you can, this can be your vehicle. See, the key to wealth creation is having a plan, being willing to go after it, and having a vehicle. You gotta have a vehicle. Your vehicle might be the lottery. And if it is, good luck. But if you want a tried and true system that's been proven, and it's been proven to work for the average person, then this is it. I don't know any other place that you can do this. So at this point, you might be thinking, well, okay, it makes sense. There is a problem out there. The economy's shifting. There's some storm winds coming. I better get my stuff together. I better find what I want to do in life and how I want to live my life. I better get my resources. I want a residual income. I want a business that I own. I can't get fired. I can't get replaced by a robot. I can't get outsized, right-sized, downsized, or any. This is mine. And when I die, I'm going to leave it to my charity or my children, and I can actually invite them in and have a family business. I want to do this with my friends. I want to have friends that I work with so that I don't go on the weekend with my friends. I'm actually all the time with my friends. I love the idea of travel. Wow, that sounds really great. I like the idea of living where I want. I want to live in the country. I don't want to live in the city, or I want to live in the city. I don't want to live in the country. Whatever that is. I want to have nice things. I want to pay cash for things, if cash is still legal. I want to not have a mortgage. I don't want to have that debt. I don't want to have to work to support the debt and the banks and all that. I want to be free. I want to be financially free. I want to look at the rest of my life and know that I've bought back the rest of my life. I own my life. I'm sovereign. I own my life. And if that appeals to you, I strongly urge you to take a deep look at this. And I'm going to leave you with some tips on how to assess a network marketing business. So there's some things you want to look at. The first thing I would say is look at the amount of time the company's been in business. Now, there's kind of a big schism or a big divide, which is some people say, well, I want a new business because it's exciting and vibrant, and other people go, well, yeah, that's all cool, but I want a business that's stable, because if I'm going to put in 3 to 5 years building this, I want it to be there another 3 to 5 years to pay me. I personally, I'll just share this. It's not about my decision. It's about your decision. I like long-term businesses. See, I've been in the industry for over 20 years, full-time. And what I know is, right now, I want to be with a company that will outlast me. Because my children and grandchildren and the charities that I support, I want them to have the benefit of the work I'm doing today 20 years from now. So I know that these longer-term companies will be there 20 years from now. The odds are very, very high. And it's very, very low that startups will be there. 7 out of 10 probably won't make 5 years. 9 out of 10 won't make 10 years. Just the way the world works. Sorry, no reflection on any specific business. If they've been in business 10 years, there's an excellent chance they'll be in business another 10 years. That's number one. Number two, look at the kind of company that they are. What do I mean by that? Look at the product offerings. Some companies offer exclusively services. Some companies offer products, goods. Some offer both. Figure out what you want in life. If you're a person that's into health, nutrition, find a company that offers that. Look, I love women's fashion, but I can't see myself selling women's lingerie. It's just not my thing. But what is your thing? Find something. Look, the industry has everything from candles and wine and women's lingerie and jewelry, all the way across the spectrum to health and nutrition and exotic foods and everything in between, services, legal services, shopping services, consulting. Look for yourself. It's just about, I wouldn't say every industry, but I would say there's a wide variety of companies. So that's an important thing. Find something that you love, that you're passionate, that you can represent. And then number 3 is look at the culture of the company. What kind of culture do they have? Because just like every country has a culture, if you see somebody from Germany, they're going to be very, very different than somebody from, where do the Eskimos live? The North Pole, right? Probably. So, you want to look at the culture of the company. What are their values? Some companies are all about personal development. They're about, we're investing in our people, we're going to give them the education of a lifetime. Whether they stay with us or not, they will be better off than they were when they came in. Some companies are all about the money. Some companies are all about the community. Some companies are all about product knowledge. A good company, by the way, will have all of these, right? I don't necessarily like a company personally, again, that just has one focus. I think there's a balance. I talked about true wealth. I think the truly rich companies are the ones that have all that. So look at that for yourself. Most importantly, the key decision maker for me is, who am I able to work with? Who invited me in? It's called the upline. Who is the upline? What is their level of success? Now, they don't have to be they don't have to be one of those $1 million earners. It's great if they are. But they have to be somebody that has an interest in me, somebody that I resonate with, somebody that I trust, somebody that I feel will have my best interests at heart in their decision making. They will have time for me, and they will be able to teach me the things that I need to know. That's who I want to work with. Now, it doesn't have to be that individual. It can be their team members, their support team, but look and get an honest assessment. This is the job interview, but you're not being interviewed. You want to interview the people that are inviting you to join their company. You want to ask them, okay, so if I join your deal, how much can I expect from you? What are you going to help me do? Are you going to train me? Are you going to help me work? Are you going to be there as a support for me? Are you going to be there as a coach, a mentor? Are you going to help me? Do you have my interests? Are you going to help me become financially free or truly wealthy? See, these are the important things that I would counsel you to look at. I would say there's possibly no perfect company. There may be a perfect company for you right now. I would say if you don't have experience in looking at these things, get the counsel of somebody who has that and ask them. Use their experience. It's valuable. And most people in this industry are very generous with their time. I know the high-level professional people that I work with, if I were to do due diligence and say this, they would give me honest answers because, the truth comes out, right? They would give me honest answers, and if I decided this isn't my team, this isn't my deal, they'd say, thank you for looking. There wouldn't be any recriminations, there wouldn't be any hard feelings. They'd go, thank you for looking. Because they, as mature professionals, understand this is not for everybody all the time. This is about being of service to others. This is about being in profound service to others, because that's what generates true wealth. To be here for another human being out of compassion, respect, and love, and offer support is rewarded in the marketplace. And that's where true wealth is created in this industry. So I want to leave you with these thoughts, and I want to invite you to get into action now. If anything that's been said resonates with you, if you see the future and you're going, wow, I don't understand all that, but it sounds like there's a storm coming, I better close the windows, I better lay in some firewood and food, and I better get my friends around me, and let's ride this storm out. And let's come out the other side together, maybe stronger. Let's come out with our heads held high because we did the right thing at the right time for ourselves and our community and our families. I want to encourage you to act because you know what? Here's the truth. All the economic changes that have happened, there have been winners and losers. And typically the people who win are the people who saw something coming and they prepared, because one person's crisis is another person's opportunity. And this can be your opportunity to have the rest of your life be a dream life. Because this asset inflation I was talking about, where prices of things can go up wildly and people's incomes going down, The best financial brains on the planet, you know what they're saying right now? Not every one of them, but most of them. They're saying, build cash. Because if a crash comes, cash is king. Meaning, if the last depression in 1930s, the people who created wealth during that depression were the people who saw a storm coming, and they got their cash situation together, which is what network marketing can help you do. It can help you generate a lot of cash. And then when asset prices were rock bottom, they bought valuable businesses for pennies on the dollar. So I just want to leave you with the opportunity to start today. Because 5 years from now, guess what? Hopefully, you'll be 5 years older. And you'll have looked back and you'll go, gee, it has been a rough 5 years, and wow, I wish I'd done some things different. If you act now, 5 years from now, you know what? You can be done. You can have the life that you've always wanted. You can have financial security. You can have profound relationships with people you work with. You can have location freedom, live wherever you want in the world. And you can have that most important thing of all, the love and respect of people around you. And you can have the time to enjoy it. So I want to leave you with that. I want to thank you for your attention, and may you have all the success that you deserve.